Today I'm going to go through with you the practice quiz for algebra for lessons 5.1 through 5.4. So check your own as you're watching this and push pause if you need to fix something or change it so that you have a really good study guide for the actual quiz. Number 1, each rate of change is constant. Find the rate of change and then explain what it means. So this first example is about studying for a test. The time that you're studying is 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, and the grade you got after studying for that amount of time is 85, 6 hours, 87, 7 hours, 89, 8 hours, 91. So let's first find the rate of change. It looks like this is plus 2, plus 2, plus 2 for every plus 1. So the rate of change is 2 over 1. You always put your rise over your run, your y's over your x's. So the rate of change is 2 over 1, which is just 2. So rate of change is either 2 over 1 or you could just put 2. And then it says explain what it means. So what this means as far as this scenario goes is it means your grade increases by 2. Your grade increases by 2. I'm assuming this is percent. So by 2 or by 2% for each hour, each additional hour. How about that? Each additional hour you study or spent studying. All right, so wording it any way that's similar to that is fine. All right, the second one is talking about the distance that a car travels. So the distance is this many meters per this many seconds. S stands for seconds. So let's find the rate of change. This looks like it increased 75, another 75, another 75 per 3. Okay, so it's always rise over run, put your y's over your x's. So 75 per 3. Always go ahead and simplify that. So 75 meters, or that's probably miles actually. 75 miles no, can't be miles per second. It's going to be meters. 75 meters per 3 seconds would simplify to 25 meters per 1 second. So the rate of change, or the slope, rate of change, remember, is the same thing as the slope. So the rate of change would be 25. And what does that mean? That means that every 25 meters driven takes 1 second. Or you could say this backwards too. You could say every 1 second you've driven 25 meters. Excuse me. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Find the slope of a line that passes through these points. Okay, all we're finding is the slope, which means all you should be using is the slope formula. If you forgot what it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That is to find the m, which is the slope. All right, if you forgot which one of these coordinates was what, this is your x1, y1. This is your x2, y2. So let's just plug them in. y2 is 6 minus y1 is negative 4 over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is also 6. Okay, 6 minus negative 4 is 10. Over 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay, let's think about this. Can you divide by 0? If you can't remember if 0 can be on the top or on the bottom, take your calculator. I just ran and grabbed mine and do it. 10 divided by 0. Let's see. You have an error. So let's think about what that means. If you have 10 divided by 0 and that says error, that means the slope is undefined. Okay, that means it's going to be a vertical line if you were to graph it. And actually, you could go ahead and graph those 2 points on a quick little mini sketch and see that it would be a vertical line. So the slope is undefined. B, let's do that the same way. Y2 minus Y1. So 5 minus 5 over -8 minus 2. All right, 5 minus 5 is 0. -8 minus 2 is -10. Can you do 0 divided by 10? We found out over here you can't do 10 divided by 0, but can you do 0 divided by -10? Let's see. 0, oops, gotta clear that. 0 divided by -10. Yes, 0 can be on top. That would be 0. And if you think about it, it's not asking you, but a 0 slope would be a horizontal line. All right, number 3, tell whether each equation is direct variation. Okay, so real quick review. Direct variation is that equation where it's y equals kx. It's not y equals kx plus 7 or y equals kx minus 12 or anything. It's just a y equals and a slope and the x, and that's it. So let's check and see. Is this direct variation? Yes. Y is by itself. It's only the slope and x, and that's all there is to it. So this is a yes. And then it says, if it's yes, find the constant. Well, the constant is another fancy way of saying the slope. So find the slope or the constant. It would be 3. So the constant is 3. All right, let's check out B. This one looks really crazy. We don't know if it is. I mean, automatically I think no, but we don't know for sure until we get y by itself. So let's rearrange this and get y by itself and find out. So I would start by maybe subtracting 3 from both sides. Okay, what you see happens here is they cancel out on both sides. So now we're left with 5x equals 8y. And we need to get y by itself. So I'm not going to worry about moving it to the other side. It doesn't matter which side it's on as long as it's by itself. So right now 8 is being multiplied by it. So I am going to divide by 8 on both sides. And that would leave it, you can actually just leave it 5/8. So 5/8 x. Okay, so let's think about that. 5/8 x, y equals 5/8 x. Is that direct variation? If I write it this direction, maybe you can see it better. Maybe it helps you. Is there any y-intercept, anything after the x? No, there is not. So this is a yes. It didn't look like it to begin with, but it's just y equals kx. And what is our k? It is 5/8. All right. Let's check out C. All right, C says, oh, where are we at? Here we go. We need to get y by itself. So I would start by adding 3x to both sides. And then you've got -35y equals, I'm going to write my 3x first. It doesn't matter if you put the 14 first. Plus 14. Last step to getting y totally by itself is divide by -35. Ugh. That's going to be yucky over here. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. I mean, we can leave it -3/35 x and -14/35. I don't even care if they simplify, because the point is it's not just a y equals a constant and x. We've also got something else afterwards that you're subtracting or adding, so this is definitely a no. Not constant, not direct variation. All right, number 4, identify the slope and y-intercept of the equation of each line. Okay, this is easy. If it's in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, if it's in slope-intercept form, this is your slope, this is your y-intercept. And guess what? A is already in slope-intercept form. So this is my slope, this is my y-intercept. So m is 1/9, b is 4. So my slope is 1/9, my y-intercept is 4. Got a little problem on this one because y is not by itself. It's actually not in slope-intercept form. So we are actually going to have to rearrange it, and there's not a y to get by itself, which I'll talk to you about what that means in just a second. But let's go ahead and at least get x by itself. So subtract 47 from both sides. 3x equals whatever 12 minus 47 is, negative 35. Divide both sides by 3. Okay, this is an x equals, in fact, you know what? We're just gonna, well, I'll go ahead and divide it. Negative 35 divided by 3, oops, is negative 11, and 0.6 repeating is 2/3. So I'm gonna say negative 11 and 2/3. Okay, so this was a hard one because we've actually never taught, well, I think we have. Earlier in the year, we might have talked to you about what a vertical line looks like. It is considered an x equals a number, like let's say this was x equals 3, and the horizontal number or line would be a y equals, like a y equals 7 or something like that. So if there's no y at all, it is actually going to be a vertical line. So let me draw a quick sketch of what this would look like on a graph. Oh, whoops, it's negative. So if this is our graph, this is our y-axis, this is our x-axis, this would actually be a vertical line on the negative 11 and 2/3. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it'd be like right around here, 11 and 2/3. So this would be here. So it's an undefined slope. So when it says slope and y-intercept of each line, this slope would be undefined. And there's no y-intercept because it doesn't tilt. It doesn't ever cross the y-axis. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, this was a good thing to know for a nice to know, but you will not have one like this on your actual quiz. So I'm glad it was on there. It was a challenge problem, but you will not have to go back over this and worry about it, okay? So let's just cross that one off. All right, C has a y. This makes me happy. So we need to get y by itself. What you would do is divide both sides by 6. Cancel, cancel. Y is equal to, that simplifies 8/6, negative. Negative 8/6 simplifies, they both divide evenly by 2. So that'd be 4/3. 4/3 x, don't forget your x. And then negative 18 divided by 6 comes out evenly, it'd be negative 3. So now that this is in slope-intercept form, I can see this is my slope and this is my y-intercept. So the slope is negative 4/3 and the y-intercept is negative 3. This will be a lot more likely to be seen on your quiz. So study C and A. Those are the two on these that you would really need to know. All right, flip the paper. Let's go onto the back real quick, the last few questions. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of each line. In order to write it in slope-intercept form, you have to know the slope and you have to know the y-intercept. So let's find the y-intercept first. That to me is a little quicker. So on the y-axis, our graph passes right here through the y-axis, and that is at negative 1. So my y-intercept is negative 1. From there, what is my rise over run? I know there's not dots, but you can see where a dot would be. There would be one right there, or there would be one right here, or there would be one right here. And then just pick 2 of them and count rise over run. So it looks like you're going up 1 over 2. So rise over run is 1 over 2. So then you put it all together in y equals mx plus b form, because that's slope-intercept form, and it would be y equals 1/2 x minus 1. All right, on B, I hope right away you remember from slope dude that this is going downhill. So this slope is going to be negative. So our slope, I don't know what it is yet, but I know it's going to be negative something. Let's start with our y-intercept. So y-axis, boom, hits right here, which is 0. It's at the origin. So the y-intercept is 0. What is the rise over run? It looks like it hits right here. And then the only other place I can find is maybe right here. So how many is it going down and over? Since we're not rising over run, we're falling because it's negative. Looks like it goes down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Down 3 over 2. All right, so put it all together in an equation. Y equals negative 3 over 2x. If you want to put plus 0, you can, but that's just excess information. Really, this is direct variation, so you don't even need to put plus or minus 0, but if you do, that's fine. All right, let's graph this equation. Y equals negative 4x plus 3. I hope you remember that you have to start on that y-intercept. So I always circle it just to kind of remind me that I'm going to start by putting my dot there on the y-intercept. So go to 3 and put a dot. From there, I'm going to count rise over run for my slope. And I hope you remember that if it's a whole number, you have to turn it into a fraction because that's going to tell us how far we run. We know we rise 4, so we run 1. A whole number is always itself over 1. And actually, we're not rising, are we? There's a negative here. So we're actually going to go down 4 over 1. So down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. If you can fit another dot on there, keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. All right, draw as straight of a line as you can. Oops, mine's not good. Arrows on both ends to show me you understand it would keep going in both directions. This one looks to me like it is actually in point slope form. So you have a couple of options. You can draw a line down the equals and subtract 3 over to here and distribute this and get it into slope-intercept form if you want, and then plot your y-intercept and then count rise over run for your slope. Or if you remember how point slope works, it's actually easier just to write down what your slope is and write down what your point is, and then we'll just graph it like that. So point slope form, if you forgot, is y minus y1 equals slope times the quantity x minus x1, where your point is your x1 and y1 and your slope is your m. So it looks to me like our m, our slope, is 1/2. So I'm going to write 1/2 over here. And then our point is this number, which is 2, but what you'll notice is this was a negative, this was a minus in the formula, and it's a plus here. So that means that this 2 must also be negative, because that's the only reason you would have it be a plus if it was minus and minus a negative, because 2 negatives in a row becomes a positive. So my x-coordinate should be negative 2. And then my y-coordinate is also positive and should have been negative. So it must be another negative in here, because a negative negative is why it became a positive. So this is negative 3. All right, start by plotting your point. Negative 2, negative 3 is to the left 2, down 3. So put your first dot here. And then from there, we're just going to count slope, which is rise over run. So up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. I can also go back down 1 over 2 this direction just to get one more dot on there. And again, this is not the only way to graph this line. If I would have distributed and subtracted 3 and got y by itself, my slope would have still been up 1 over 2, and my y-intercept would have been negative 2. So I could have gotten this a whole different way. But to me, if you know point slope formula and it's in that form, then this is a little bit quicker. All right, number 7, write an equation, and here we go. Point slope form for the line that passes through this point and has this slope. Okay, these are the ones there's no math involved. If you know the formula, which we wrote down right here, if you need to, pause the video and write this down again. But if you know that formula, you're just going to write it here using these numbers. So this is my x1, this is my y1. Y minus y1, which is already a negative, so another negative would make this whole thing positive, equals the slope, which is negative 1/2, times the quantity x minus my x-coordinate, which is 2. Done. All right, B. Once again, this is my x-coordinate, this is my y-coordinate. Y minus my y1. Okay, if you want to put y minus 0, you can. But anytime you're dealing with zeros, you can just leave it off. Y minus y1, if it's 0, you could just call y. equals my slope, which is 4, times the quantity x minus my x coordinate, which is 4. And again, if you have y minus 0 here, I will consider that correct. This is just a little bit more simplified, so it's probably a little bit better. All right, last problems. Write a whole equation this time that passes through these points. All right, a whole equation. And actually, I don't believe it tells what type of equation. So I think it does on your quiz. I want to say on your quiz it says slope-intercept form. Intercept form. So I want you guys to be able to first put it in point slope form and then convert to slope-intercept form. So before we can do any of that, we have to find the slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So -6 minus -2 over 8 minus 4, that would be -4 over 8 minus 4 is +4, which means our slope is -1. All right, quick reminder, let's put it in point slope form first. I'm just going to choose this for my x and y coordinate and this for my slope. You could use either set of ordered pairs. Y plus 2, because it was negative, equals -1 slope times the quantity x minus 4. All right, there it is in point slope form. But since I need it in slope-intercept form, I need to get y by itself. So I am going to distribute. -1 times x is -1x. -1 times -4 is +4. I'm just going to bring down y plus 2 for a sec. Y is almost by itself. All we have to do now is subtract 2 from both sides. And we've got it in slope-intercept form. Y equals -1x, or I'm just going to call it -x plus 2. All right, last one of these. These are hard because you have to do 3 different things. You have to first calculate the slope, then you have to write it in point slope form, and then you have to rearrange it into slope-intercept form. This is probably a good time to pause it, make sure you check this and make sure you did it right, and then you can check mine for the answer. Or if you want to work it out with me, here we go. 10 minus -5 over 2 minus -1. That would be 15 over 3, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So our slope is 5. All right, let's write it in point slope form first. I usually choose the first ones, but I'm going to avoid negatives. So this time I'm going to try the second one. This is my x1, this is my y1. So here we go. It is y minus 10 equals 5 times the quantity x minus 2. And by the way, if you chose this other ordered pair, it will be correct too. I know it'll be slightly different answer, but it will be correct once you distribute it and once you get it down to this. So if I would have, you can challenge me on it, if I would have taken 8 and -6 and filled those in here and here, once you distribute and rearrange, you would get the same answer. So it does not matter which ordered pair you choose. All right, so let's rearrange it. Distribute 5 times x is 5x. 5 times -2 is -10. Over here, y minus 10 means we need to add 10 to both sides. Oh, this is going to be interesting. These drop out, but so do these. So y just equals 5x. So this is another direct variation.